Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down something pretty incredible, how the Sikh community went from its spiritual roots to become a major political and military force in India. It's quite a story.
So how does a peaceful faith become this formidable political power? This is a question that's absolutely key if you're trying to get a handle on modern Indian history. In this explainer, we're going to chart those key moments, those turning points where everything changed.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the spiritual beginnings. Then, we'll see that big turn towards the sword. After that, we'll explore the Khalsa's political vision, the struggles that followed, and finally, the rise of the sovereign misls. Let's get right into it.
First things first, let's go back to the beginning, to the peaceful, community-focused foundations that were laid by the early Sikh gurus.
So what's really fascinating here is that you can see the building blocks of a whole society being put in place. And get this, before there were any soldiers or armies, there were scholars and builders. You've got the creation of a whole new script, Gurmukhi. You have the Lunga, that free community kitchen, being made a central part of things. And then the founding of a holy city, Amritsar, with the Har Mandir Sahib right at its core. These weren't just religious ideas. These were the pillars of a real physical community.
So what happened? How did this peaceful, community-focused group start down a military path? Well, the answer lies in a really tragic, direct confrontation with the Mughal Empire. This was the moment everything changed.
Yeah, this wasn't just some political dispute, it was a real flashpoint. The Mughal Emperor Jahangir, he ordered the execution of the fifth Guru, Guru Arjun Dev. Why? Because he supposedly helped the emperor's rebellious son. This single act of violence sent a massive shockwave through the Sikh community. It was a brutal signal that, peaceful devotion alone wasn't going to be enough to survive.
And this right here? This shows you the direct result. It's a total shift. The sixth guru, Guru Hargobind, he responded right away. He brought in this idea of the saint soldier. It was a game changer. The community started training as a fighting force. The focus wasn't just on building things anymore, it was about defending what they had built.
So, this new defensive mindset, well, it didn't stay just defensive for long. It was about to evolve into a real political ambition, and that happened under the 10th and final human guru.
Okay, fast forward to the late 1600s. The persecution from the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, it's just relentless, it's intense. So, in response, Guru Gobind Singh does something radical. He doesn't just strengthen the community, he completely transforms it, formalizing it into a distinct political and military force.
And this creation, the Khalsa, was an absolute masterstroke of nation-building, really. It gave the Sikhs a single, unified identity and a really clear purpose that went way beyond just self-defense. Suddenly, the goal wasn't just to survive anymore. The goal was to rule. This was the birth of a real political vision of sovereignty.
So, after Guru Gobind Singh's death in 1708, the line of human gurus comes to an end. But that political mission he started, it was just getting warmed up. The leadership role passed to his trusted disciple, a man named Banda Bahadur.
And wow, Banda Bahadur, he took the Khalsa's vision and came so close to making it a permanent reality. For 8 incredible years, he led this massive uprising. He captured huge chunks of Mughal territory and actually established a Sikh state. He even minted his own coins. That's the ultimate symbol of being in charge, right? In the end, his rebellion was crushed, and he was executed in a pretty brutal way. But he had shown everyone that a sovereign Sikh state wasn't just a dream, it could be real.
But with Banda Bahadur gone, that strong central leadership vanished. And what happened? The community fractured. They fell into internal conflicts. You had these rival groups, the Bandai and the Tat Khalsa, who saw things differently. And all this division, it really weakened the community, right at the moment they'd been so close to achieving their goal.
So you have to wonder, right? How on earth did they pull themselves back from the brink of breaking apart to become the rulers of the Punjab? Well, it boiled down to 2 things: some brilliant reorganization and, honestly, a perfect political storm.
Okay, step 1 was getting their own house in order. A leader named Kapoor Singh Faizalpuria organized the Dal Khalsa, basically the army of the Khalsa. And this was an absolutely critical move. It brought those rival groups back together under one banner, getting them ready to act as one single powerful force.
And then came the opportunity. By the middle of the 18th century, the once mighty Mughal Empire was, crumbling. It was getting hammered by internal revolts and outside invasions. Its grip on faraway regions like the Punjab, it was basically gone.
And it wasn't just the Mughals.
At the same time, you've got these repeated invasions from Afghanistan under Ahmad Shah Abdali, which just threw the whole region into more chaos. But here's the key. The Afghans couldn't hold on to it. They couldn't establish lasting control. So what do you have? The Mughals are gone, the Afghans are retreating, and the Punjab is just sitting there with no one in charge. A massive power vacuum had just opened up.
And the Dal Khalsa? They seized this moment. They jumped right into that vacuum. They organized themselves into 12 different sort of autonomous groups known as misls. This structure was the key. It allowed them to work together to fill that power vacuum and finally establish Sikh rule. Now, the political system they set up is really interesting. This wasn't a kingdom with one king. Nope. Each of these 12 misls was its own sovereign state. But, and this is the clever part, they coordinated through a central assembly. Their leaders were elected, and this idea of equality was a huge deal. For about a decade, from 1763 to 1773, this democratic-style confederacy made the Sikhs the undisputed masters of the Punjab.
So think about that journey from a spiritual movement to a confederacy of 12 sovereign states. They'd done it. They had achieved sovereignty. But the story isn't over. The final step, uniting these 12 equal states into a single, powerful empire, that was going to take a very special kind of leader. And who was that? Well, that's a story for another time.